Hello everybody, my name is Aud and welcome back to the Aud Narrations channel. Today we're reading a story titled Finding Out the Truth About My Wife. As always, if you enjoy these videos and want to see more, make sure to hit the subscribe button, that way you won't miss the latest upload. I've been on holiday for a few weeks, so I am very much out of the rhythm of doing these, so we'll see how this one goes and hopefully the others are fine too. Let's make a start. The post reads, "We spent 2 years together in college and got married the fall after we graduated. Spent 2 years exploring our relationship and finally got settled down and was ready to raise a family. She got off birth control and her libido took off, but it took 3 years for us to get pregnant, but we got a beautiful girl finally." Oh, this is going to be sad. "After a couple months, my wife got back on birth control and had a hard time with it. Her doctor switched her meds several times, but she had bad side effects with each one. We talked about it, and we were unsure if she wanted another child since it was easier for me to get a vasectomy reversed later if we decided to have more children and I had the operation. That was 3 years ago, and after coming off birth control, my wife has felt better, and sex has been worry-free since we can no longer get pregnant. We actually have sex more now than we were in college. Then, 3 weeks ago, my wife was late for her period, which isn't that unusual for her. Then I noticed her breasts were a little tender, and she started what seemed like signs of morning sickness. Now I know there have been cases of nature-reversing vasectomies, so I went to the doctor and had my sperm count checked, and the verdict was that I'm still sterile. But I didn't tell my wife. My wife finally went to the doctor and confirmed that she was pregnant, and so she had me go to the doctor to get tested. I didn't go right away, because I was literally sick from the stress of the situation. I had all sorts of sick scenarios going through my head, and in the end I got retested and I took my daughter in and had a DNA test done. I got both test results back today and got violently ill after reading them. Yes, I am sterile, and no, my daughter isn't mine. When my wife got home, I showed her my test and she denied any wrongdoing, saying that there was a problem with the test, and I showed her the test from last week and she broke down crying. I finally got it out of her who she had slept with and that it had only happened once. The condom must have failed. I made her tell me the story 3 times, and each time I asked her if that was the whole truth, and if there was anything else you needed to tell me, because another lie would mean we were through. She said that was the only time, and she had never done anything like that before. I told her how much this had hurt me, and asked her how she could do this to our family, and if it was worth it. I asked her if she wanted a divorce, and she pleaded with me to forgive her, and put this behind us. I said I couldn't raise someone else's child, and asked her if she'd be willing to terminate the pregnancy in order to stay together. She cried the rest of the night, but when we went to bed, she said she would do whatever it took to save our marriage. I never brought up the DNA test. I'll contact a lawyer next week to see what my options are about if I have to pay child support on our first child. If she had come clean about the father of our first child, I could have swallowed my pride and tried to work to forgive her, but she thought she was in the clear and didn't need to confess anything else. No telling what I'll never know." And they provide an update called Lawyer Update. "My lawyer is awesome. She had me bring a bunch of paperwork, bank statements, and my medical and DNA test results, and had me tell her my story. Her assistant sat in with us and took notes while my lawyer went through my documents. After I finished, she asked a few questions and spelled out my options. I live in an at-fault state, which is good and bad. Good in that it gives us leverage, bad as it takes longer and is much more expensive. In the case of the first child, if my wife agrees to sign the papers for my liability for child support, it's an easy fix. If she doesn't agree, then a court-ordered DNA test and a judgment from a court can remove me without my wife's consent. Either way, I'll most likely not have to pay child support. One way is just more expensive than the other. Since my wife has a good job and earns close to what I do, I don't think the judge would award her any alimony. All of that, plus dividing up property and other things, can be negotiated before a judge gets involved. The bad news was due to the holidays, they couldn't have the papers ready before Christmas, but definitely would before the end of the year. She advised me to say nothing until she got served. She gave me a list of things to do before and after Christmas, before they served my wife. One thing they did point out was since we were actively trying to have a baby, there was a possibility that my wife didn't know that the child wasn't mine. My wife has an appointment with her OB tomorrow. Not sure what OB is. So let's have a look at the comments. Someone's left a comment saying, "Divorce her. She's one of the worst human beings. You don't deserve such a betrayal. You'll regret it if you do not divorce her. She's selfish and a B, fucking around and you sense a bitch, but you don't sense a fucking around and don't giving you even the real answers. Your first daughter is also not yours, right? And the second one also?" Someone replied saying, "It looks like neither the daughter nor the fetus is his." And someone replied to that saying, "He knows for a fact she's still lying. Dude, Don't pressure her into an abortion. The baby isn't yours. The trust is gone and is never coming back. The 3-year-old isn't yours. Divorce her and move on with your life. If she wants to keep the second affair child, leave that decision up to her, but don't lead her to believe that you'll stay with her if she aborts. That should have no impact on your decision, as you should be gone no matter what she does. Right. Someone else has left a comment saying, paternity fraud should be a crime. Your wife may have been carrying on this affair since before you were together. I'm sure she sees security with you, but gets off on the sex with her affair partner. If it's been going on this long, that's a whole separate life she's living. You should do your best to find out who and let his wife-girlfriend know. You can look into having your name removed from the birth certificate, so you'll not be held responsible for paying someone else's child. If you are going to stay, then the biological dad should be made to pay child support. If I were in your shoes, I would blow up this relationship and start over with someone who respects and loves you, or someone who you are enough for. Someone replied saying, OP's problem is that he's the father of record for the girl and likely will get stuck as the father of the fetus unless he gets an aggressive lawyer. The affair partner is likely a married man. Paternity fraud is insidious. Someone replied to this, saying, you would think with the indisputable proof of DNA that a court wouldn't be able to ignore that. I'm not a lawyer, but it sounds like a clear case of fraud to me. She should be forced to name the father in a court of law. 23andMe might help find him as well, depending. Someone else left a comment saying, reading it again, you need to throw that trash out of your house. Speak to a lawyer and make it official later that neither of her children are yours. Ask her parents to take her home, of course, after you spoke with your lawyer. Don't be stupid and stay with such a horrible human being. Find yourself a wife that loves and respects you. Someone else left a comment saying, so your wife admitted she's pregnant with someone else's baby, but she doesn't know about you knowing her daughter's paternity? I'm sorry, it's one thing to cheat, but another to let you believe it's your kid. Just remember, it's not the kid's fault. I think that's a really important point here, is that the child obviously has actually done nothing wrong. It's one thing to be upset, but ensure that you don't take it out on the child. Someone else left a comment saying, she also had a lot more sex with other men than the once and the condom must have broken. Someone replied saying, typical, they only admit to the minimum of what they think you know. OP's provided an update saying, depending on my lawyer's advice, I plan on telling my mum and dad about the situation ASAP before my brother lets it slip. If my wife doesn't tell her family about the affair, I will when/if we go over there for Christmas. I may reveal a copy of the DNA test results as well to them. I know from friends who have gone through divorces before that moving out is a bad idea for legal claim on the house. Again, depends what legal advice I get tomorrow, but my wife doesn't have anybody nearby she can move in with, and her moving back home would mean not being able to keep her job. There have been some here and a couple of friends that have said that I shouldn't turn my back on her/our daughter, and that it is not her fault. But she has her mum's green eyes and blonde hair, and I know when I look at her, it'll be like rubbing salt in an open wound, and a healthy relationship with her going forward isn't likely. A few weeks ago I was hurt but kind of numb. Now I can feel the resentment, anger, and maybe even hate starting to fester more and more each day. I think a check-in with my doctor may be in order to see if he can refer me to a therapist or counsellor. Someone's left a comment saying, it'd be difficult for anyone to raise someone else's child. I, for one, could not do it. You would not love the child and would not treat her as the child needs to be treated with love and affection. Your wife will be left to her own actions and contact her first affair partner. There's no telling that she may be in a long-term affair and then there is only one affair partner. Either way, let us see if the affair partner wants to step up and co-parent his child. More than likely, the answer is no. Your soon-to-be ex-wife will be left to support and bring up her child alone. Eventually the child will want to know the truth and her mother or a relative will tell her the truth. If not, she may contact you in the future to find out what happened. Either way, your soon-to-be ex-wife will have to deal with her daughter knowing that her mother is a serial cheater. I'm sorry that you had to live through this, but you will eventually heal. Now, part 2. OP provides another update, and it reads, TLDR. After having a vasectomy after our first child, my wife got pregnant 4 years later. I go to get tested to make sure I'm still sterile, I am, and not the father, and then decide to test our daughter, not mine. I had to wait until after Christmas to have her served. The new post reads, so I met my sister at my house, and we started moving my stuff to her house while the divorce goes through, or at least until my soon-to-be ex-wife leaves and I get possession of the house. We took 4 carloads to her house and came back for the rest. My sister felt it important for her to be there for support and as a witness. I also moved the nanny cam into the living room so it could record everything in the cloud. At about 10:45 AM, I got a text from my lawyer saying that she'd been served. I sent her an email saying that I'm at the house when she's ready to talk. A couple of minutes later, I get a text from my wife saying, why, blah blah blah. So I resent the first text and waited for her to get home. She sent several texts and voicemails. They don't mention anything about cheating, just how she thought we were working this out and how she thought we would sit down and have a conversation before proceeding with the divorce. Playing the family card and how this one will devastate the child and our families. How she feels betrayed. That was a good one. She was still sharing her location, and it took her 20 minutes before she left work, and then stopped at a nearby Walgreens for a few minutes. The purpose of the stop at Walgreens became clear as a police car pulled in behind her in the driveway. According to the officers, she got the police there because she said she was afraid and that we had guns in the house. I showed the officers my empty gun safe and said that I'd remove them to another secure location. We went back to the living room and I showed my wife the paternity test which I'd done that showed her daughter was not mine. Her response was denial and disbelief, which appeared genuine. She broke down and cried for about 10 minutes. I told her this was the final straw and why I wanted the divorce. At about that time, the police officers reminded me to keep it civil and made their exit after I told them I was leaving soon to stay at my sister's house. When I asked who the child's father was, she claimed she didn't know. I asked if there were that many guys she was sleeping with, or did she just not know his name. I asked how many times she had cheated on me between pregnancies, to which she said it was just the 2 of them. I told her that I said if she didn't tell me the whole truth, I was done. I reminded her also that I told her that I couldn't/wouldn't raise someone else's child, and that she had better figure out who the real father was because I was not paying child support for someone else's baby. She wanted to know what we were going to tell our daughter, and I said that was up to her, because this was her mess and I wasn't taking blame or cleaning it up for her. I drafted a couple of emails last week, one for our friends and family with copies of all the test results and reasons why I was asking for divorce. The other for my wife with copies of the same tests, along with what I knew and things I had told her previously. I had to run it through my lawyer and make a couple of edits before she signed off on it. I sent copies to all our friends and relatives when she pulled into the driveway this afternoon. Most of the feedback has been one-sided and very colourful. In the end, I told her that if she had been truthful, we might have been able to work things out, but I couldn't trust a lying serial cheater, and I told her if she'd gotten her tubes tied instead of me getting a vasectomy, she might have gotten away with it. I told her that she needed to get a lawyer so we can move forward and start to heal. And they write an update, another one, saying, we had our second meeting with the lawyers today, and we signed off on almost everything except the house. Still waiting for an appraisal to come back and figure out the split. Motions got filed today and a court-ordered paternity test was scheduled for all 3 of us. Since my soon-to-be ex-wife didn't fight me on everything, we filed a no-fault divorce petition. If everything goes right, I get the house back on February 15th, and the divorce will be final on April 5th. The lawyers did a better job keeping us separated and the conversation between the 2 of us to a minimum. I was a little worried when she came in, pale with no energy to speak of. I couldn't tell if it was the lack of sleep or maybe over-medicated. She just stared out the window as the lawyers read everything to us before we signed some of the papers. Walking out felt like I had shed a giant weight from around my neck. HR got me signed up for therapy tomorrow. My boss had put a bottle of champagne on my desk, offered me some time off if I needed it, but I told him I was excited to get back to work. Someone's left a comment saying, the drama is still not over. Once the shock wears off, she'll regroup and come after you. Listen to your lawyer, lean on your family, and be careful of so-called friends wanting to help you. Good move on seizing the narrative and getting the truth out. Don't be surprised if she still has supporters out there. Sounds like you prepared well, but don't let your guard down. Good luck. Hopefully, the worst days are behind you, and don't be too proud to get help from a professional. Fantastic advice. Someone replied saying, I was surprised at the number of supporters that my wife had and continues to have after I exposed her multiple affairs. Someone else replied saying, that's because her version of the truth paints you in a very much different light. You probably deserved it. Insert obvious eye roll here. Someone else left a comment saying, you made the best decision for yourself, but I hope that you've discussed with your lawyer before leaving the house. Someone replied saying, my lawyer said once she was served, leaving the house wouldn't hurt my bargaining position. That separating was the best for everything and could speed up the process for the final decree. Someone else left a comment quoting, when I asked who the child's father was, she claimed she didn't know. I asked if there were that many guys she was sleeping with, or she did just not know his name. And I asked how many times she had cheated on me between pregnancies, to which she said it was just 2 of them. And they write, amazing, even when the chips are down and her world implodes, she's still lying to your face. To which someone replied saying, when someone is unfaithful in a relationship, the first person they have to lie to is themselves. For her to start telling the truth now would mean to have to face the truth about herself, and a lot of cheaters aren't ready to do that. Especially as their world starts to fall apart and people know what they've done to destroy their marriage. Someone else left a comment saying, I understand your need to end the marriage and dissociate yourself from the child. Just get ready for people to come down on you hard because you're leaving the kid. I get it, but it isn't their business. If you're sure you can't be a good father to the child, then you leaving is the best choice. I'm sorry for the child, but her cheating mother is to blame, not you. Good luck. And OP writes, I could never be the kind of father she needs. She's a carbon copy of my ex-wife, and every time I look at her, it reminds me of her mother and what she did to me. I'll miss her, but this is something I don't think I'll get over. Plus, I would have to see my ex, and that wouldn't be a good thing either. Someone left another comment saying, Thank you for respecting yourself. Your ex-wife is one of the worst human beings, making you believe you're the father and then taking it away that easy. Don't believe anything she says. She was ready to let you raise someone else's children forever. You handled it perfectly. Go full non-contact and don't be a nice guy. She did 2 worst betrayals to you. Good thing you handled family and friends. Every step you did is what I advise everyone else in this sub to do. Good luck. Someone replied, quoting, Don't believe anything she says. She was ready to let you raise someone else's children forever. And they write, Her reaction to the paternity test seems credible. I think it's just possible she did think she was mine. The DNA wasn't even a close match, so it was pretty clear I'm not the father. But yeah, everything else she says is also probably a lie, which is rough. Right. Whoa. Tough one. That's heavy stuff. Okay. What do you think OP should do? What do you think OP should have done? What would you have done in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comments. As always, if you appreciated this video and want to see more, make sure to hit the subscribe button. That way you won't miss the latest upload. Alrighty, we'll have to finish there for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.